another talk about critical thinking. And seriously, I've been to so many talks on critical thinking, which proves that the topic is quite important. But I have a feeling that, well, what else can I say? I will try to show you that still there's a lot to be said. So, my name is Marcin Stanowski, and I want to show you some ideas to foster critical thinking in tweens. I had a lot of experience with critical thinking in high schools, but recently, like a year ago, I started working with younger people, namely tweens. I did that also because my daughter just turned 9, and well, I've got to prepare to this topic, and as a psychologist, as a teacher, I simply want to know what it's like. I need to prepare, so I also read about it, and let me start with it. Did you have such an experience that a certain student came to you every time before the lesson or as the lesson was starting and was asking you some questions or were telling you some ideas of his or some stories? Does it happen? We've got such students that simply want to chat a bit. And I had this student quite fluent in English, and once he came to me and he said, "Did you know that these Germans," and he used some bad word here, "can't even protect their women against those," another bad word, "immigrants"? I mean, what do you do with such a statement? Obviously, he wanted to impress me somehow. He wanted to give me a piece of news. Probably he couldn't fight the urge to do that. He simply wanted to show off with English and what he has got to say. But he spoke with great confidence. He was really kind of into what he was saying. And of course, I assumed automatically that he must have heard it, or maybe read it, or maybe someone in his family said it, and that was that. I mean, how would you react to that? It's not an easy thing, because I believe that such a statement from my student was simply like emanation of his well, not very high not very high maturity of him, right? He didn't want to say anything bad. Of course, he was referring to this incident of 2016 or 2017, where a lot of German women were assaulted during the New Year's Eve concerts and attractions in Germany. But he didn't give this a thought. Probably there was some critical thinking skills that were missing at this point, and definitely there was this skill of being able to compare and contrast. Like he should be able, if he were older probably, compare what he was told with some other news. Maybe he should have checked that information. Maybe he should think twice before he tells it to other person. Maybe he should be also able to think about, is it really true? And what, if it's true, what led to this attack of people on women? And also, there must be some missing skill of differentiating facts from opinions, because he used very strong opinions, really not thinking much about it. And of course, in this moment when it happened, I didn't react, because I was simply taken aback. Later on, we did several lessons generally on the issues, and I used some of the activities that I would like to present to you. Definitely, we need to think about critical thinking, and it's critical, especially at the age that this boy was, and he was 10. And today I'm talking to you about tweens, which are students, different sources say different things, around from 8 to 12, sometimes even to 13, they say. Some critical thinking skills would allow him to gather some complete information, understand the whole situation, question the methods by which he found the information, and also probably he should question the conclusions. Is it something wrong about all the Germans? What actually happened? Also, probably if this was a member of his family who said that, maybe he could question the hidden assumptions of a person who said that. And of course, the source of the facts should be checked. What's more, if we teach critical thinking, probably we shouldn't expect all the answers to the questions from the very beginning. But definitely we should help students to examine the bigger picture. And what is critical thinking? Basically, critical thinking is simply the thinking which questions itself. If you think about yourself in a fitting room, in some shopping mall, you put on a top that you think you like, you go to one mirror, you go to another mirror, and you look around, you watch your reflection from different sides. Why? Because you want to have different sources of information, because you want to check if what you what you think you look like, what you think you look is real. Maybe also ask your partner, or maybe even a shopping assistant, what they think. This is about the different sources of information. Critical thinking is one of 8 key competencies which are included in a new course book by MM Publication and Portal to English. And I have a feeling that it's not only Portal to English, and we, as teachers, we are also not only Portal to English, but a Portal to Life. And one would probably ask, why do teachers of English have to deal with all the dramas in the world? Basically because we can talk in English at our classes about basically a lot of things, almost everything. That's why I believe that those key competencies are very, very important, because they touch so many areas of development of our students. These are several of critical thinking skills that we might address, that we might foster. All of them are important. I will touch today only a few of them. To tell you something more about tweens, sometimes they are a mess because they are very emotional, but they start also thinking logically, and what's more, they start questioning what before this age was not questioned. And these are only a few phrases of my friends, of my colleagues from work, what they think about their tweens. Has tons of attitudes, right? And is moody all the time, thinks she's always right. And he is so irresponsible, and is complete airhead. And that's been also said yesterday by Dr. Kaczmarzyk, that this is heavily based on what's happening up there in the brain. So, what's up there? Actually, the brain is under construction. And one of the reasons is that the prefrontal cortex is only starting to develop. It's maturing, and this prefrontal cortex is responsible for planning, for personality, for decisions, and that's why we cannot always predict what young people do. People who go to school trips very well know what I'm talking about. Another thing is that between two hemispheres in our brain we've got such a structure which is called corpus callosum. And this appears to be growing rapidly at the tween age. And that, scientists say, means that two hemispheres are connected better, and thus the process of thinking, and especially this ability to speak different languages, is enhanced, is simply better. So that's why young people at the age of around 11 have the top capacity of learning the grammar rules, for example. Another thing is that young people at this age are at concrete operational stage of their cognitive development. This is one of the stages which was explained by, which was worked out by Jean Piaget, the French educator and psychologist, and he says that this is a very crucial formative age. Another thing is that at this time, what happens in our brain is also neuron and synapses pruning. That means that around 40 to 50 neuronic and synaptic connections are lost. And it's not because they're not important. I mean, they are giving space for the growing connection of a new, more abstract thinking brain. And that's why probably many students shift so much in their decisions, in their thinking, but also this is the moment when we, as teachers, as parents, need to pay special attention to developing students' critical thinking. This is basically use it or lose it. If those synaptic connections, neural connections are lost, we must enhance, we must improve those which are staying, and we need to also teach certain habits, which was just an hour ago told by my colleagues, our colleagues from Wrocław Polytechnic. This concrete operational stage is between 7 and 11 years of age, according to Piaget, and this is characterized by some more complex thinking structures. This is focused on some personal decision-making, growing identity in teenagers, but also questioning authority, and also forming their own views. And in this point, it's very important to teach about the facts and opinions, because they influence the students' views, our views. If we think about teaching tweens, this is something which I recently encountered. Simply two 10-year-olds talking about two games, which is better, Fortnite or Brawl Stars. Both of them are on mobile, so this is, by the way, this graphic organization is called Venn diagram. It's from mathematics, but we can also use it to a lot of ways to show the way of thinking and differences and similarities. And those two guys were talking about, so which game is faster, which has got more mods, which is played by more students, and so on. And basically they were learning critical thinking by just talking about their hobby. But this is something that we also do at school, when we ask questions about means of transport, and we not only present them the information on a poster, or we don't only pre-teach the vocabulary, but also we dig deeper. So we ask questions. What's the difference between plane and car? Which is faster? Which is cheaper? Which is the same? Where you need to put the seatbelts on is actually the middle thing, right? It's the same. I'll give you some other ideas about how to teach critical thinking, and another one. Well, obviously, if we just mention that, we need to think about the language, right? That's still the classroom of English. We still think about that. But our core goal is not our goal is not only the language. It's also the thinking process that we give students chance to practice. Another thing that we may talk with students about is cause and effect, and this is the beginning of reasoning. If we move further, we can talk about logical thinking, about syllogisms, about deeper understanding of processes, but we start with some simple things. Could you please, very quickly, think about this activity? Which are the causes and which are the effects? We received 7 inches of rain in 4 hours. Is it A, B, C, D, or E, or F maybe? What's the answer? F, brilliant. And let's talk about 3. The boss was busy, and the result was, yeah, her secretary took a message, right? And another one, smoking cigarettes. Yeah, that's that. Okay, let's talk about some other cause and effect. And this time it's from Portuguese to English. Students need some visual input as well. Therefore, we ask them to show which could be the cause and which should be the effect. And you know what? Sometimes the same thing is both cause and effect. So I ask my students to take take their mobile and find a photo that they can safely show to others, and then ask a question. Is this situation, or is this thing in the photo, is it a cause or effect? And if it's both, in what way is it cause, and in what way is it effect? And that is very personal, but also this is very intensive in thinking, because maybe they've got some memories connected with this photo, and they think about some real situations. And we don't want only to rely on some impersonal material from the book. Here we've got a short story, because we know that everything works better in a story. And yesterday was a terrible day. I woke up late for basketball practice. I was in a hurry. Why was Mark in a hurry? Because he woke up late, and so on and so on. What's more, the next question may be what Mark could do not to wake up late, not to be in a hurry. And this is something which is also happening in our classrooms. Some students are talking about their life and what caused some behavior, especially when they misbehave. They always got some excuse, and this is also some critical thing. I believe that if we start attacking the child at this stage, when they produce some made-up excuses, we lose the chance to get into relations with students. So of course we don't buy the lies, but we should talk further about why they such excuse. Maybe they simply are very creative, not in this positive way now, but maybe we can use it to a positive, in a positive situation. And probably you've heard about vicious circle, but I ask my students to practice the virtuous circle. And the virtuous circle is such one, is the happy one. On the screen before, we saw the unhappy situation. But if we want to foster this positivity, maybe we could design something like this. And I really believe in this thing, smile to everyone in the street, because maybe some person of the crowd is a teacher. And if you smile to a teacher, they are in a better mood for the class. Okay, so that's also a food for thought. And when my students write such sentences, I ask them to stand in a circle and show. They grab the chains they grab the chain and they show that actually this is the chain of cause and effect. Or if we get some more time, I ask students to write these sentences on strips of paper. We glue them together, we put them together, and then we form a very, very long chain of happy events. Still we're practicing cause and effect, but then we also foster some positivity. And if we talk about positivity, I have this feeling that when your children and when our students sometimes talk back to us, this doesn't have to be the thing of their bad manners. That maybe they're voicing their opinions. And I know this is the point where the emotions step in, but then think twice when you simply kind of talk back to them. I believe that if we take it mildly, there's much more good from that than we just simply provoke fights with a teacher, us, or parents, us. So if students at this age start talking back at you, that doesn't have to be the bad thing. It's simply a sign that the prefrontal cortex is getting better and better. Okay, we should channel that, but don't diss students in this moment. Another thing, and here we get some possible language. Definitely we can teach conditionals with that, but also some linkers and some introductory phrases. Even later on, it will be quite useful in essays or maybe in public speaking. Another thing that we could practice is differentiating between facts and opinions. And this is a passage from Portrait to English, second part, and he would get a short text about volleyball. And I had a similar conversation with my daughter, Gabriela, because she just started training for volleyball. And we talked about, okay, so what are the rules, the facts, and also what you like about it, okay, opinions. Or maybe what you don't like it, for example, that she's got to practice volleyball 2 times. Actually, she doesn't have to, she wants, but some of her friends complain about it. So what we do here, we simply ask students to draw a table, and we ask students to put the facts and opinions in the table. But you probably can do this activity without much preparation with every single reading comprehension activity. In every passage, in every reading text that we have in our books, well, most of them, maybe not at most of them, we've got facts and opinions. So after the reading comprehension, you simply can ask students to underline the facts and circle the opinions. And if I show you this image of a guy watching himself in the mirrors, this is also to tell you that we should teach students from different perspectives. For example, to think like scientists. And that can be done through CLIL lessons. I know that the world goes in this direction, that probably in some time we will be forced to teach other subjects in English, because if we want to prepare our students to jobs or to challenges in the future, they should know their subjects perfectly in English as well. So that's why we also should incorporate so-called soft CLIL in our lessons. And for example, talk about greenhouse effect, where we talk about the cause and effect. Or maybe we talked about maths, area and perimeter, where we talk about reasoning. And if we talk about physics, aerodynamics, we talk about facts and opinions, rules, and maybe some information on the web pages that they found. But also, we should teach them to be travelers. And that's why in Portrait to English we've got also culture pages. So not only you focus on the language, but also teach them about the world. If they know more about the world, they are better citizens, they understand more, and they may be not so biased against other people. Another thing is that if you think about critical thinking skills, there's this important aspect of classification. And what I do, especially with the first year students, I ask them to create a time capsule. Even if with one group I managed to make it a real time capsule, we hid it near to the statue of our patron of our school. 50 years, we'll see. But this is also the cognitive activity. What do you put there and why? Not only you need to classify what things you want to put inside, but you also want to you need to justify, you need to give the reasons why you put such things. This is very easy activity without preparation. I store a lot of magazines in my classroom. We simply cut out things, we make posters about it, making them think about the future, or we also ask questions what you could find in a time capsule from 50 years ago. Or such philosophical questions as, if you put a pen drive that you've got in your pocket, or if you put the mobile device that you've got in your bag, will it be readable after 50 years? I mean, the equipment may be correct, but will we have the technology that will read such things? Think of that. Maybe you still have some tapes, like the cassettes, right? Can you use them now? will it be easy for you to find a device that plays them? Maybe still in 5 years, yes, but in 10, in 50? Another thing, what I ask my students to do, and much my daughter, is spot the scam in the spam. Our students are users of Instagram, for example, and sometimes someone, I don't want to always believe that it's a bad character, asks them to follow them ask for the permission to follow them on Instagram, and they promise to follow back. And of course, every student wants to have a lot of followers or subs on YouTube. But if you follow somebody, you also give them permissions to access some information that later on may be used for the evil purpose. Or this one. Some students may be susceptible to such piece of information. We have learned it, but we also we have to teach our students to be careful about that. Another thing is find the fad in the ads, because they're also members of communities on Facebook or maybe on some other social media, and well, they could be also well, faced with such a dilemma, and even very young girls more and more often are well, careful about their shapes, about the diet, and clicking doesn't probably cost us much financially, but maybe they will be redirected to some other web pages, more dangerous ones. So why don't we teach our students, our kids, to stop? Simply don't follow the clickbait. Okay, so now I've got to ask you about the parrot. Have you ever had a parrot? Who's got a parrot, or who had a parrot? Hands up. Nobody. Okay, I had a parrot. Actually, there were some problems with that, but not as big as here. Take a look. So Tom brings the parrot to to the vet, and a broken wing thing. And later on, after the day of treatment, Tom gets back to the vet, takes the parrot back to his house. Hey Tom, your parrot is different. Huh? Listen, I'm Polly, what's your name? I'm Polly, what's your name? And you know what? The parrot is not called Polly. What's the problem? What happened? Okay, we need to get back to the first screen. See? There are two parrots. There are two parrots. Okay, and so we've got some kind of story, we've got a puzzle, we've got spotting the details in the story, but later on, as always, after some story in Portuguese to English, we've got over to you. What can we do to solve the problem? And then we've got a discussion about some possible ideas. Whenever you've got some story, you always, after reading comprehension, also can ask such questions. And what's more, you can ask students to prepare the questions for the story, which practices this habit of questioning things or asking things. Here we've got a bit about art. I use art a lot in my classes, and here we've got the analysis of the bedroom by Vincent van Gogh, and of course we can talk here about what our bedroom looks like, and we can give some facts, opinions, We can practice reasoning. Why do you have this in your room? Why do you have a TV? More and more students have a TV set in their room. I don't know why. And you can do that with the Think It Through pages in Portal to English very effectively. And of course, it's practicing opinion giving. But you can move further and examine my favorite artist, Rafał Lubiński, and ask about the metaphors, which is practicing more abstract thinking at the same time as we practice describing the picture. Well, actually, this activity can be done across the board with all our students. With this one, I've got to tell you, when I was in Teachers Training College, that was my first lesson plan, based on this sundial picture. And here we kind of applied the multiple intelligences theory of Howard Gardner. Students practiced. They made a drama about the guys who are kind of dragging the sundial, and of course a lot of metaphors jumped out of it. Well, I want to tell you, I want to repeat what I told you before, that we as teachers are not only portals to English. We are portals to life. Whether we want it or not, we affect our students, and we should think about how to make it effectively through key competencies, through critical thinking. Just to tell you, Portal to English is a new course book by Publications. It has got a lot of materials included. You've got Portal to Grammar, which analyzes the grammar in context. You've got Portal to English videos where you teach about everyday problems of students. And then you've got the most wonderful work that I saw, which is a colorful, beautiful course book with Think It Through activities which boost critical thinking. With this, I wanted to thank you very much for coming here and spending this time with me. I know it's Saturday, and I'm so grateful that you're here. If you want to contact me, these are the places where you can find me and also Publications. Please remember that you have received the little slips of paper, and I have given you the answers to 3 questions. Now it's time to fetch your copies of Portal to English, take a look at it, see what you like about it. But I need to also tell you that Publications is doing a good job about the webinars, and every Thursday we invite you to take a look at the events that we create on the Facebook page. The next webinar is about practicing skills, me and Isa do our best to show you more of ideas about teaching English. Thank you very much and have a good Saturday.